my hound and my gun. Chasing them deer, rabbit, and squirrel, now that's my kind of fun. I like going fishing too, I'll go on any whim, looking for the big bass, the crappie, and the brim. Just give me a wide open field to walk through. Give me an ocean so deep. I want to ride the longest river in the world, or maybe climb the highest mountain peak. Like going down to the fishing hole, my buddies and me and my old cane pole, bait them hooks and wet them lines. It's the life I love so fine. It's almost supper time, you'd think the world was mine.
And now for today's outdoor adventure, here's Archie Phillips.
Well, folks, we're fixing to embark on a what we call a sure enough good fishing trip here. We're out here on one of my favorite places, which is Bayview Lake, which at one time was totally dead. And some of the folks you see right here, old Perry Wayne Brown and Danny Beck over there, and Charlie and Mr. Carl out here helped us bring this thing back to life. And I guess the best brim fisherman on the lake is here he is, right here. And he's trained me on a lot of places. And Lawrence, I want you to know I appreciate you. He found us some spots, Dr. Pittman, that maybe we can go up there and do something. And I want to introduce some of the other folks here. This is Dr. Pittman. You're the dean of the Birmingham UAB Medical School. Is that correct, sir?
Right.
And who is our two lovely guests we got right here,
Well,
Doc?
this is Dr. Donald Thomas from Mrs. Dottie Thomas from Seattle, Washington, from the Fred Hudson Cancer Center and the University of Washington Medical School. And he just won the Nobel Prize in 1990 for developing bone marrow transplantation as a way to treat leukemia and cancer of various sorts.
Oh, that's great. Well, you know, I know being in the cancer business, he's probably been real busy and he's not got caught up on his fishing. And you know, to keep a doctor sharp, he's got to have some R&R every now and then, hey, Doc?
Continuing education.
Continuing education, and we're gonna split up here in a couple of boats and ease out there and see if we can't roust up a few of these brim and hippie. We're gonna give these folks some of our kind of therapy, Perry Wayne. Is that all right? good redneck style. That's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna get in the boats and we'll get started fishing here.
Hey, Doc, you and your wife both done got on a good brim spot here, it looks like. I hope I didn't spook them when I moved in here. Let's just pull them in, and I got the anchor set now. Well, y'all got them almost the same time, didn't you, Dottie?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we did.
There you go.
Just a little ahead of mine. I think mine's bigger.
Doc, y'all got any brim up there where you're from?
No, we don't.
Don't have any brim?
We don't have any.
No.
I see. This is kind of the summertime fun fishing in the South.
Do that.
They really are pretty little fish.
Beautiful. See, these are bedding. If you notice that real red color on them there,
Yeah.
once they go on the beds, they brighten up real bright, and they'll make them little small beds out there. And that's when they lighten up like that. And that color goes out pretty quick right after you catch them. Now, Doc, these graduating doctors y'all got up there, you going to just give them a talk about brain marrow, bone marrow transplant, or just medicine in general?
I'm going to talk about medicine in general, and actually I'm going to talk some about my father's experience. He was in practice from 1890 to 1940, and then I was started in 46 to now, and medicine has changed so much, you know.
Everything's changed, ain't it, Doc?
Yeah, and I think this graduating class should know that it's going to change for them. We don't know just how it's going to change, but they have to keep changing and keep studying, because what they've learned now may be changed in another 15, 20 years.
I see. Well, now, you won your Nobel Prize for your research work in the bone marrow transplant, Doc?
That's right. That's
I
right.
see. Did you just get on this thing like a detective? Is that the way this came about?
Well, I guess you could say that. When I was in medical school, I learned that you couldn't transplant tissue from one person to another, because it would always be rejected. And but there were some clues that might not be true. And so I started to work on that, and we tried to do some human marrow transplants back, and there's one chasing it, back in the 1950s. And basically they didn't work unless patients had an identical twin. So we worked with the dog as an experimental animal for 15 years until we finally worked out a lot of the problems. In 1969, we were able to start back doing human bone marrow transplants. And well, this look at that falling. This year, there are about 8,000 bone marrow transplants done around the world.
Now, you pioneered it, didn't you, Doc?
Yeah, that's what the Nobel Prize was for.
I see.
I shared that prize with Dr. Joe Murray from Boston, who did the first kidney transplant.
Well, now, have you done all kinds of transplants, Doc?
No, just bone marrow.
Just bone marrow. You hadn't done lung and heart and stuff like that, have you?
No, that's done by the surgeons. The bone marrow doesn't really require a lot of surgery.
I see. Well, now, in lay terms, what happens when a person's got cancer and you change that bone marrow? What does it do, Doc?
Well, most of the people we've worked with have leukemia. And so we give very large doses of chemotherapy or radiation when we're trying to
Doc, me and you going to have to be a deckhand. I see that right now. Dottie's putting it on us.
We can't talk. We have to keep taking her fish off.
There you go.
I took the last one off. I have to take the fish off.
You want these little old plier deals here, Dottie?
This one's up through the bony part of its
There you go. You got him whipped now. Just twist it and push. There you go.
Got it. The idea was to destroy all the leukemia cells with radiation and chemotherapy,
I see.
which also destroys the normal bone marrow
Uh-huh.
and would kill, cause death. But to replace the destroyed bone marrow by bone marrow from somebody else, that's what we call a bone marrow transplant. It's in some ways not as difficult as kidney and heart transplants. We get the bone marrow by sticking needles in the hip bones.
Uh-huh.
Requires an anesthesia, but it doesn't require any cutting.
And you've killed off all the bad stuff in the patient, right?
Right.
And you're
right.
putting back good, healthy stuff from someone that's not their identical twin, right?
Right, that's right.
And does that work?
Yeah, it works. It works, well, when we give the marrow, it goes in intravenously. It looks like a blood transfusion when it's running in.
I see.
And then we have to hope that it starts to grow. I talk about being like planting seeds in a field, and if the planting is right and the soil is suitable, it'll grow. And it takes 2, 3, 4 weeks for it to begin to make blood cells. And during that time, it's a very critical time, you have to support the patient with I almost caught a tree. You have to support the patient with transfusions and put them in isolation and so on.
In other words, it's tricky at the best, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tricky. And of course, sometimes the graft is rejected, but a lot of the problems are being solved now. When we started, we might get 10% of the patients through this.
Uh-huh.
Now we're getting 50 to 90% through it.
Oh, that's good. That's beautiful.
There's still problems, and
You had problems when you started, though, didn't you, Doc?
Yeah, sure did. And these people all had fatal diseases, diseases.
Well, they was gone, wasn't they?
Diseases that would kill them within a few days or a few weeks.
I see.
You take that fish off yourself, Dottie?
Yes, I can.
She's getting better at this, Doc. Doc, you got one coming?
Yeah, I got one.
Me and you've been doing so much talking, Mama's done about caught up with us, hasn't she?
Caught up.
I mean, past us.
She's ahead of us. She's ahead of us.
Oh, there's a beauty.
Ah, yeah, look at that.
I got a backlash, so I gotta get out.
Good, you keep your backlash. Maybe I'll get to catch a fish.
All right, Doc, you got another one coming there.
Fish?
Is this a lovely little place right here, Doc?
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, got another better coming on in
I
there.
think my wife's trying to knock this one off.
She's been putting it on me and you both here for a while, Doc.
It's been known to happen.
Well, you know, the ladies have to show you guys how to do this.
That's right, that's right. And I tell you what, this ain't the first time you ever been fishing, I can tell you that right now.
That's right.
Y'all fish a lot around the country, Dottie?
Not as much as we'd like to, mostly because we don't have enough time, but we get out whenever we can.
Well, see, we're only about 15 minutes from where the doc's gonna make a speech in downtown Birmingham. And so all y'all got to do when you come to Birmingham, just give me a holler, and we just jump in the boat and we'll be here.
Well, that sounds good to me.
No major preparation. You know what I'm saying?
That sounds great. We'll be here.
Okay.
Nothing I like better.
Doc, when you first started all this pioneering work on this bone and this cancer, did you have any of your peers up and down the line that thought you was crazy as a loon?
Well, I don't know. They wouldn't say crazy as a loon, but they thought it probably would never work.
I see.
That it would just be too difficult to do this kind of thing. And I guess there were times when it was kind of uncomfortable to go on doing the work. But you know, in the dogs, we had demonstrated that we could do this. And that encouraged us to go on to do it with human patients.
Right, well, you was telling me, now, you know all these crazy animal rights folks is out there talking about not experimenting on animals. The stuff you developed couldn't have been done without dogs, could it?
No.
Or animals.
It certainly could. It certainly couldn't. I'm going to have to concentrate on fishing. No, and you know, Joe Murray, who shared the Nobel Prize with me, makes the same point. His part of the prize was for starting the kidney transplant, doing the first kidney transplants. And none of this could have been done, kidney or liver or heart or bone marrow transplants, if we hadn't been able to test these things to improve them. And in a way, the animal rights people don't seem to realize that a lot of the things that are learned through animal experimentation. I got another one. Through animal experimentation are helping animals. I mean, we've treated dogs with lymphosarcoma with a bone marrow transplant. We've treated dogs with osteogenic sarcoma. If you go into a veterinarian's office, you will see many drugs and things that are being used for animals that were developed with animal research. So it's not just that we help human beings that way, we help animals as well.
These folks have they done got their brains all warped. They don't know the full stories what the deal is, Doc.
Well, I think that's right.
If I had a little child and could come to you for a transplant and you could get that child better from experimenting on animals, I wouldn't even want to talk to somebody that was out there running up and down the road protesting all this animal rights stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it don't make good sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make good sense, and I suppose they're well-meaning, but they're certainly not well-informed.
Yeah. Well, in your other colleagues, do all of them have a basic premise about that they've got to use these animals to do this stuff?
Oh, I think you would find any serious investigator would say that you have to do animal work.
Uh-huh.
They're just, we don't do an experiment if we can do it without animals, but you can't do test tube experiments to the exclusion of animal work.
Y'all throwing a place about the size of a wash tub out there, aren't you?
Yeah. There we go.
Oh, that's another nice.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty. Oh.
You notice, if you look real close at those brims, every single one of them has got just a little bit different pattern, just a little bit different color. Some of them's got a little pink in them, some of them's got this, that. Now, we've got some old timers around here that claim that coming on the May and April and May moon, even the June moon, these things move up on these beds more during that time, the phase of the moon. And I have been out here in one day, load a boat, and the next day they just seem like they got the shut mouth. So there must be something to it, but it's an old theory. It goes way back, and I've seen it happen time after time again.
Preserve that memory for a lifetime with a quality mount from Archie and Bubba Phillips Taxidermy. With over 35 years experience leading the way in the development of the most modern and innovative methods of taxidermy, Archie and Bubba Phillips can have your trophy back to you in 4 to 5 weeks. Durable, long-lasting color, and accuracy is our goal by researching various species of fish and bringing it to you with the convenience of home delivery.
Freeze your fish solid in a plastic garbage bag, roll them up in 1 inch or 2 of newspaper, put them in a cardboard box, and send him UPS on Monday. Outside the southeastern United States, send him second day air. Daddy got one coming across the bow up there.
Yo, look at that.
They ain't quit biting either. They just keep on keeping on. Oh, it's a beauty there.
That's a pretty one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Doc, have you fished and hunted all over the world by talking to these folks in different places?
Well, when I travel around the world, I always try to work in a little fishing, a little hunting.
Ain't no rule against that.
No. You have to get a little rest sometime.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were hunting in Austria in October, and we were fishing in New Zealand in February.
What y'all gonna fish for?
Well, there we were fishing for trout.
Trout. I
Rainbow
see.
trout and brown trout.
I see.
Fly fishing.
Well, what do you think about catching these brim in this lake? It was dead 10 years ago.
Well, I think whoever restored this lake ought to get a Nobel Prize.
Well, we got good folks like Jack Capps and Janice Jones and Danny Beck and we got Perry Wayne. You met those folks, Perry Wayne Brown and those folks. All of them in there caring and
very nice folks.
These folks they're caring type people, you know. Y'all gonna fool around, be throwing this little old Keystone jig. I failed to mention, Doc, what we're using, but they're just it's just a little small, a little rubber jig, and it's a 30-second, and you just put a little hook in it there, a little jig hook, and it will flat catch the brim. Now, it's one of my buddies caught a 20-pound grass carp on it this morning, and we catch a lot of bass and everything. It's just a lovely kind of bait for this kind of fishing. Dottie, you ain't gonna let him catch up with you, are you? Go ahead, Doc.
A lot of trouble with nutrition is that we abuse ourselves. We don't eat a proper diet, and of course we smoke, which is the worst possible thing.
You know what I call smoking? I call it time-release suicide.
Yeah, that's a good name for it. Good name for it. And part of the problem is just abuse of nutrition. Eating too much, eating the wrong kind of diet.
Well, have you had any in your studies and research? Have you run across people that have actually cured cancer by their food regimen?
No, I don't think so. I think it you know, once it really starts.
And gets a hold of you.
Yeah, and starts to spread. I don't think you cure it by nutrition.
Well, let me ask you this.
You know, there's a sort of folklore about that, but there's no real good scientific data.
Do you think your immune system, if it's kept up with proper nutrition, can keep cancer from ever establishing?
Well, it tends to help, but of course, Dottie, I caught you.
You're just trying to keep me from getting any fish.
There's no doubt that conversely, if you don't have a good diet and your immune system and so on begins to deteriorate, that's bad.
All kinds of stuff happen to you, don't it?
Yeah.
Well, Doc, let me ask you this now. When you do all this intense research and all, what does outdoor fishing and hunting do to you mentally when you come back to work? Now, you're a doctor. You can analyze that.
Yeah, I think it regenerates me. You know, I do a lot of work with terribly sick patients, dying patients, and periodically, for my own mental health, I just have to get outdoors for a while. And I think getting out and going hunting and fishing, for me, is the best way to relieve that kind of tension.
You can't have much tension when you got brim on in that rod right there, can you, Doc?
No, you can't. That brim took this lure just as it hit the water. I think he's going to jump up and catch it.
There you go. I think you found him over there now. I don't think you know right where to put it.
Well, folks, we've had a great afternoon of fishing, and Dr. Thomas, you're rejuvenated now. You ready to replant some more bone marrow, aren't you?
Right, I'm all rested up, ready to go.
All rested up. And Dr. Pittman, did my boys that was tending to you, did they do a good job?
Well, just look at the string here. It did great. We lost half of them because we did the door on the.
Oh, well, see, you remember me telling you about that floating door on my little wire basket, Doc?
Yeah.
You got to have a floating door on there. And Danny, did y'all go to some of your spots too?
Yeah, Fairway had them staked out.
Had them staked out there. All right. And Chuck, was you with them, or did you just kind of?
Yeah, me and Charlie went on down.
Me and you and Charlie. Now Charlie here's our snake catcher, and we wanna. I was explaining to the doctors here about the lovely recreation we have out here, and how it was through the efforts of these boys y'all see on the front row here, and some of their folks, and Jack Capps and Janice Jones and all those folks that enabled us to do this, Doc, and they did a good job, didn't they?
Well, we appreciate it.
And so y'all get on with them doctors and train them real good, because I know they're going to be with the best with Dr. Thomas here. And Ms. Thomas, we appreciate you coming along, and I believe you skunked both of us, if the truth of the matter was known.
Right.
There you go. And we'll see y'all folks again next week. Y'all stay tuned again for some more Outdoors with Archie Phillips.